Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I want to tell you why I love podcasting. Hi, my name's Tommy Dixon, and I make podcasts for the BBC. I'm a big fan of stories, always loved a good book. But when I started commuting for my first job, I discovered podcasts. I was blown away by how a creative idea and the right mixture of sounds could take you into a whole new world full of incredible stories. You know, the type that make you go, wow. And that kind of inspired me to give it a go myself, which, to cut a long story short, led to a BBC training scheme and a whole new career giving other people that exact same feeling. So if you want to hear amazing stories that make you go, wow, like I did, they're just a tap or a click away on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and I'm your host for this edition of the Scottish Football Podcast, your indispensable daily guide to the beautiful game in this country. It's Thursday, the 22nd of February, and here's what we've got coming up today.
Oh my goodness me! Wow! That goal could have a massive say in the championship title race!
Wow, indeed, after last weekend's incredible drama, we focus on everything beyond the Premiership, with a special look at the lower leagues.
No way, no, is that the big fella? I'm not having that. Substitute goalkeeper unleashes an absolute pile driver.
As ever, expect excitement in the Championship, and
the amazing scenes the Falkirk fans have had to suffer over the last 4 or 5 years, so to see the Falkirk Stadium at that end, it was really great to see.
Can anyone catch Falkirk and Stenhousemuir in Leagues 1 and 2?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Joining me today, the Clyde manager Ian McCall and BBC Sports Scotland journalist and commentator Thomas Duncan. Hello to you both. Ian, hello there. 8 points adrift at the bottom of League 2. We'll get more into that in a little while. But despite that, how's life in general?
Well, that was a nice opening line, John. Thanks for that. Yeah, I've been fine. We are on the footballing front. We're fit to change an awful lot of things around. We're just searching for consistency. You know, we played Dumbarton on the Saturday and won well, won comfortably, and then had a terrible result on the Tuesday night against Forfar. So every team, I think, as far as I can see, is pretty similar. I think Stenhousemuir are the standout team, but I think you're capable, certainly in League 2. And I hope this doesn't sound arrogant. I'm sure it doesn't. It's not a league I know that well, and it's very, very competitive. And I think fitness is a huge thing as far as I can see thus far. But Stenhousemuir look the team they're also the team I think that were able to pick the same team week in, week out. A bit like a Broth when they had their glory season. You could pick their back four. It was like monotonous. It was the same every week for months. So. Yeah, other than that, absolutely fine.
We'll get more into League 2 very soon. Stenhousemuir, Clyde's next opponents, of course. Thomas Duncan, hello to you. And Thomas, got to ask you, in terms of the Championship, League 1 and League 2, which of all the stories in there, and we're going to get through all of them, which is, briefly, if you will, the one that sticks out most for you?
I think probably the title race in the Championship, just because it is a title race at the moment anyway, given that Steny and Falkirk are running away with it at the moment in the other two leagues. The fact that Raith Rovers won last week, I just think keeps it boiling away nicely. Some folk might have thought that Dundee United would have been running away with it at this point. Maybe they should be, although they've not done an awful lot wrong, it has to be said. So the fact that we've still got a title race in the Championship, given the last two seasons where it's gone to the penultimate and then last game, is great. So yeah, let's go for that.
We'll get to that pulsating match at Starks Park last Friday very soon. So much to get through with Ian and Thomas. But before all of it, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. David Martindale says that steering Livingston away from relegation after what he describes as 3 years of hell would be his biggest achievement as a coach. Rangers will find out who they'll face in the Europa League last 16 on Friday, following tonight's playoff matches. Derek McInnes has challenged his Kilmarnock side to get to the Scottish Cup final to cap what's been an impressive campaign so far. 31-year-old former Scotland striker Mark McNulty has completed a shock move to League 2 side Spartans after leaving American team Orange County. And Raith Rovers have bolstered their championship title ambitions with the signing of Dundee defender Lee Ashcroft on loan until the end of the season. Yeah, let's start with the championship and that news in the headlines. Lee Ashcroft, Ian McCall, a good signing for Raith Rovers. He's been there in that division and done it.
Yeah, he's a terrific signing for them. I tried to get him at Thistle. I thought I had him actually. This might have been 2 seasons ago. I can't remember. Yeah, he's proven at that level. I think he's done okay in the Premier League as well. He attacks the ball well in both bolches, and he's a terrific type of a boy. I think you ask any manager that's had him, they'll tell you that. They were the reports I got from him. And I think the Dunfermline Athletic will be a bit gutty, because I know they were in for him as well, and with all the injuries James just had, that'd have been a terrific signing for them. It bolster them at the other end of the table. But yeah, a good signing for Raith, and they're going for it. There's no doubt. I wonder if they'd have done this if Scott Brown hadn't scored that last minute winner. But they're definitely going for it.
Yes, absolutely. Thomas, Lee Ashcroft, obviously a good defender for Dundee, was there in the championship winning team, obviously always a threat at set pieces as well at the other end. In terms of that match Ian's just mentioned, and obviously I was there last Friday night at Starks Park, what an incredible game, what an incredible finale. A great advert for the championship. What did you make of the Raith Rovers Dundee United game?
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant advert for not just the championship, but Scottish football in general. Like a packed stadium, great atmosphere. And I thought that especially the first 15-20 minutes, like both teams played some really, really, really good stuff. Knocked it about. It was kind of end to end, and it shows you that the quality sometimes gets knocked in Scotland, but we do have good players at all levels, technically good players, and I thought it was brilliant. And then, I think Dundee United will obviously be kicking themselves. Like you could just tell by Jim Goodwin's kind of rather salty post-match reaction, kind of accusing Raith of over-celebrating, that he felt his team should have won the game. I think they had enough chances to do it. I suppose it's credit to Raith Rovers. It sums up their whole season that they kind of hung in when they needed to, and then produced a big moment late on, which has become their speciality. But yeah, I don't think you can ask much more from a game on the telly under the lights, packed stadium, good quality, and then one with a moment of just absolute brilliance at the end.
Ian, was it a must-win for Raith Rovers? And as a former Dundee United manager yourself, what did it say about this Dundee United team this season for you? Or was it just one of those matches?
It wasn't a must-win for Raith Rovers, but I don't think they could afford to lose it, to go 7 points behind. I thought Raith, I agree with Thomas. It was a good advert for not just Championship and Scottish football. I thought Raith looked devoid of confidence for most of the game. I thought they looked a shadow of the team that they had earlier in the season. And it's this type of moment that can just give you more momentum. The sitting midfielder who sometimes plays centre back, very important player for him, Scott Brown, coming up with I would imagine, if I'm wrong, I apologise, Scott, but the best goal of his career. And that changed the course of that game. But anybody watching the game would tell you Dundee United deserved to win it. But, it's how they utilise that moment, Raith Rovers, moving forward to give them, because the way they play, the front 9 players, I think is how they played. They need to be full of confidence, and that should give them confidence. Easton being on the bench tells you that there is a lack of confidence with a lack of winning. So, that should not kickstart their season, but give them that momentum going into the last, whatever it is, 13, 14 games.
Do you think it'll go down to the wire now, Ian?
I do, and I don't rule out Thistle and Morton getting involved. I really don't. I know that point difference might be too much, but I wouldn't rule that out. But I like watching Airdrie. I think they're a really good side. They play really good stuff. I don't think they'll quite have enough to get involved now, so I think that'll be a top 4. And I wouldn't rule out Thistle, Morton, and Morton come with a late run, but you would expect they need to get my old captain, Ross Docherty, fit, and he needs to stay fit. The points difference with him and the team without is remarkable.
I was going to mention him in a minute, actually, Ian, but just before we move on, Thomas, could you call it at this stage? There is a bit of a gap between, obviously, Raith Rovers and then Partick Thistle in third place. It does kind of look like, I suppose, for most people, obviously not Ian, that it probably is a 2-horse race. How do you see it going?
I can call it. I'll probably be wrong, but I still think I've always thought that Dundee United would pull away in the end. I still think that, and it'll be great if Raith Rovers go and prove me wrong and take it to the last day. That would be sensational. But I still think as we mentioned, with Ross Docherty coming back, Declan Gallagher's another one who was absolutely massive for Dundee United at the start of the season when they basically gave away no goals whatsoever. I mean, their record without him's not terrible, but I think him coming back soon will be a huge boost to them. And when you look at Wraith Rovers, again, it's just about whether they can sustain these late goals. And I think I'm right in saying every single game they've played in the league has either been a draw or decided by a single goal, which is absolutely incredible, to be honest with you. And you just wonder, is that sustainable now? People will probably be screaming at me saying, well, it's been sustainable for 23 games, so why can't it be sustainable for another 13? And that's a fair point. So I guess the excitement as we're about to find out whether it is sustainable or not, because I think over the last 9 games, Dundee United have taken 14 points and Wraith Rovers have taken 11, and that includes 2 wins over United. So I think even if United lose to Wraith again, in April, I think it is, they play again, or end of March, then I still think they'll probably get enough results over the rest of the games. But, I could definitely very much be proved wrong by Wraith Rovers. We'll see. They've done it so far.
It's utterly unpredictable as always in the Championship, and that is part of its beauty, of course. In terms of this weekend's fixtures, Partick Thistle versus Dunfermline is our live match on Sports Scene on Friday night. It is a huge one at both ends of the table. And Ian, if I can start with you mentioned Ross Docherty there. Obviously a huge player for Partick Thistle in recent seasons now at Dundee United. And you just wonder with Partick Thistle, I don't know how you see it, but they score plenty of goals, they ship plenty of goals as well, and obviously they lost Kevin Holt as well. And I just wondered how much you felt, the loss of Docherty and Holt kind of was leading to the fact that, yeah, they do concede, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, I always thought 2 of the players would leave. I thought Tiffany and Turner, I got the vibe that they would leave. I was pretty certain that, given the correct deal, well, it's since been proven that they could have afforded it. Holt and Docherty would both have stayed at Partick Thistle, and I think them and the Thistle team would make them favourites for the title. So there was just so much unrest around Thistle at the time, and nobody really knew who was in charge and things, and I think that's why they got out the door. So I mean, it's a big game at Firhill. I think Docherty is exactly the type of player Partick Thistle missing, and one that sits in the midfield who he's hard as nailed, and people don't realise really what he does. You're people in the stands. So I don't mean that to sound that disrespectful, because football is a very, very simple game and we all love it. But Holt as well, was a big, big player. And you look at the record, the defensive record, as Thomas says, at Dundee United. Big game on Friday night at Firhill. I know I've got a lot of friends going. Dunfermline, I mean, they need a result. I mean, you've got to say their injuries have been horrendous, but not as bad as their broths. But they need to turn things around really quickly, or they could be in real danger of going back down the way. For a club the size of Dunfermline, I don't suppose that was in their script.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely cracking match on paper for all sorts of reasons on Friday night, live on the BBC Scotland channel. Do join us for that. Time is always against us on the Scottish Football Podcast. So let's wheak through the other fixtures in the Championship. Dundee United obviously up against Queen's Park. A tough test for United as the Spiders have picked up under Callum Davidson, Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've only lost 1 of 5 since he took charge or something, and they've stopped conceding goals, which I think was like their Achilles heel. They've obviously got a lot of young players, very clear way they want to play, playing out with the back, taking a lot of risks, and I think a lot of teams had worked them out and kind of were maybe waiting for them to make a mistake and pounce, basically. But we know what Callum Davidson brought to St Johnstone when he was there, 2 trophies for a start, but defensively they were extremely organised, and I think he's starting to instill that in Queen's Park, which, if they can maintain the kind of attacking essence and passing the ball and exciting young players and get a bit of steel and shape about them and solidity, then they'll be a threat for anyone. It's just so competitive. So yeah, and Scott Brown's had a bit of an impact at Ayr United as well. So it's also a dynamic where it's harsh for managers, but then a lot of teams have changed their manager and had a bounce. So it's always that thing as well, that managers are always looking over their shoulder, which is a bit of a shame, but it seems to be the way it is at the moment.
Just the nature of the beast, isn't it? Yeah, Scott Brown's Ayr United up against Wraith Rovers this weekend. Obviously, Rovers will be hoping the result against Dundee United could be the catalyst for them. I just got to mention, Airdrie travelling to Morton, Ian, as well. I mean, it is a huge match in terms of that fourth place at the moment. Two form teams in the division, you could almost say, and obviously Capello, a bit of a fortress for Morton at the moment. How do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a great ground. It's a proper old football ground. I don't mean great in terms of facilities, great in terms of atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, I think Morton, a little bit like I said about Dunfermline and Arbroath, they had real injury worries at the start, do get a real bad run, but they've got an incredibly settled team now. They've been able to pick it 10, 15 games in a row, and they've got some good players. They've got a very, I would tip this young guy as one that might go and do something as a manager. He's very, very hungry to get, I mean, I think he's got a chance to maybe go and manage at a real good level. I mean, you see a lot of players, managers winning 2 or 3 games, and everybody says they're fantastic. So, but I like the cut of his jibe. Yeah, I mean, it's a big game for Airdrie with a poor result last week. But Morton, I just get a funny feeling Morton are going to do something this season. And Hearts will not like going down to Capello in the Scottish Cup. That's for sure.
Oh, that is going to be good, isn't it? That is going to be good. Very tasty.
Yeah, terrific game to look forward to.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
The Championship wasn't the only division where there was a thrilling top-of-the-table clash last weekend. In League One, Falkirk extended their lead at the top with a 3-2 victory over second-placed Hamilton on Saturday. Huge game. That widened the gap even further to 14 points by beating Montrose 3-0 on Tuesday. It does look like Falkirk are home and hosed. What's been behind their success this season, and what have you made of the job John McGlynn's done, Ian?
Well, I think you answered the question. And what's behind the success is John and Paul and Paul Smith. I mean, I had somebody ask me about the job ages ago, and I said they need a proper manager, and I mentioned like John McGlynn, and I'm not saying that's why he got the job, but I mean, I think as well to come back from the playoff defeats they had against Airdrie, which was really, really awful, because Falkirk are a big club. I mean, they're a big club with a big fan base. And the job he's done is, I don't think it's unexpected. I think I would expect, maybe not to do it quite as in such style as they have done it, particularly. Falkirk after 5 years, I think it's 5 years, in League One will take their place in the Championship, and they'll probably be looking to do a double bounce, to at least get. And he was the right man for that job at the right time for me.
Yeah, it feels like Falkirk have been in exile down there for what seems like forever. Yeah, massive game for Hamilton on Saturday at home to third placed Alloa. Bit of a gap between those sides, but obviously a huge, huge match. And also should mention Queen of the South versus Montrose, potentially interesting fixture this weekend. Perhaps Queen's not quite out of the playoff scheme of things quite yet. It's live on BBC Alapa on Saturday night at 5:30. Finally, let's take a look at League Two, a division, of course, you know well. Ian, your Clyde team, as we've mentioned, currently bottom, 8 points behind Stranraer. Can you still stay up?
Yeah, of course we can. I mean, there's 11 or 12 games still to go, but we felt Tuesday night was a real chance for us to claw things by, and we didn't. I go the better team in the first half, but anyway, in these situations, who cares about that? Yeah, we just need to get a level of consistency into the team, but, we 12 players went out of the door and 8 came in January, which is just a bizarre thing to do in January, but it needed done. Hopefully we're a bit better. I'm pretty sure in fact, I know we're a bit better. We're a good bit better, but whether that's going to be enough to get us up to 9th, who knows? Time will tell. But the one thing I'll say about this division is, particularly I can talk about us, we're as capable of going to get a result at Stennismuir as we are going to get beaten Elgin. So, yeah, all the teams, as I said before, I think Stennismuir are the best team. I think the results don't lie, but there's certainly been a structure of their team in their play. When I've watched them, I've only watched them twice, and they've been able to pick the same team all the time, and they have a generally good level of fitness and a smart manager. So it'll be a difficult game for us, but every week is the same in the league, because I think the teams are all to even. I know that's not borne out in the league table, but I don't think there is a lot between many of the teams.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because you obviously lost to kind of lower end of the division rivals Elgin, Stranraer and Forfar recently, but you did beat Dumbarton, who are 4th in the table. I just got to ask you about Stennismuir, obviously. I mean, just how impressed have you been? Runaway leaders in League Two, led by Gary Naismith at the moment.
I think they've got a good balance of the boy Buchanan and Wedderburn, experienced players for that level. Buchanan's a good player at that level. The young centre-back Jameson, who I think is capable of going and playing probably Championship, maybe beyond. They've got one or two others in the forward areas, Matty Yates. Yeah, I mean, there's a really good balance about their team. And I don't want to keep banging on, because it's not just about injuries. But at a lot of levels, that's really, really important. I mean, I think they were able to, on their winning run, I looked at the team, was almost the same every single week. You know, when they won so many games in a row, which was a hell of an achievement. And we were training there in our nomadic ways until I changed it. And they're a smashing little club, and I don't mean that condescending wise. Ian McMenemy, I know, and there's an awful lot of it. The pitch is huge. I mean, you have no idea how much it's used with the amount of people that go on at the kids. So, it's a great little community club, and I think this may be the first championship that they've ever won. If they win it, I'm pretty sure they will. So, yeah, they've been terrific. They really have.
Speaking of community clubs, Thomas, some signing for Spartans by the looks of things. Mark McNulty, that's going to cause a bit of a stir, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that's when Ian's saying there that the teams are all very closely fought and, you know, evenly matched, and that bears itself out, and that could be the kind of signing that can transform a season. I mean, I don't know, with these signings it's always like how much has he played, how fit is he, but, you know, if he's been playing full-time football, I imagine he's in good nick, and he's ready to go and step in, and I'm sure he'll score a few goals for Spartans. They're in a good position at the moment in the playoffs. We saw what they can do against Hearts. I watched them beat Dundee United in the League Cup at the start of the season, so they're a good team, and that'll only make them better, I would assume. But it is a fascinating league, because Stenhousemuir went on that run for, I think it was 12 wins in a row, and kind of went clear, and then they lost to Peterhead, and then they've drawn their last couple, but no one seems capable of taking advantage. I think Peterhead have only won a couple in their last 11, Dumbarton won in their last 9, Spartans 2 wins in 6. So it's so competitive that although the top sides are slipping up, no one's actually catching too much ground on them, because it is just so competitive. So it's kind of a great division, I imagine, to be part of and to watch on a weekly basis. But yeah, Mark McNulty, that is a coup, as we say in the business, Jonathan.
No shortage of excitement throughout the leagues in Scottish football. Time to wrap things up for now. Many thanks to Ian McCall and Thomas Duncan. And remember, you can see Partick Thistle versus Dunfermline with me live on the BBC Scotland channel from 7:30 on Friday night. Jane Lewis will be back with another bumper edition of the Scottish Football Podcast tomorrow. And remember, we publish new episodes every weekday morning, bright and early. So if you haven't done so already, subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss out. Scottish football, the gift that keeps on giving. Bye for now.
The Scotland Rugby Podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby Podcast.
It's just seismic stuff.
There's bucket hats as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this a rugby podcast or is this a fashion podcast?
Why can't it be a bit of both?
Rugby. Let's get on to rugby. There's a lot to be excited about. Today's guest, John McGuigan.
Clubs are at the absolute bedrock of everything Scottish rugby's about.
The Rugby Sports Sound Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
You cannot help but be so excited. It's going to be the centre of the rugby universe.
BBC Sounds.